Go ahead.
I was getting my point across the racetrack. It's all okay. I'll just listen to you. That was like-
Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I believe Ms. Harris will be here shortly. But welcome to our April showers meeting. The flowers are absolutely out, and so is the pollen. But hopefully everyone's doing well. And we'll go ahead and get started with our meeting tonight. I'll call it to order. Ask council if there are any adjustments to the agenda briefing agenda at this time. Okay, staff? Okay.
No, sir.
Thank you. We'll move on into general business. First item is comments from council and myself. And I will start with Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, I'm just trying to think, this basically I look forward to down about 15 minutes ago. One of the things that we don't talk about right here, right now, but maybe the town manager, Mr. White, can enlighten us later on during the meeting about the horse show that we had. And we can discuss maybe the pros and the cons of it. There was pros, in my opinion, and there were cons, in mine also. So I think maybe we can have a little discussion about that. And I would also, as a council, like to see us discuss the citizen and the business of the year. So, not private, but, you know, not to have this big discussion on Thursday night in front of a big crowd. The town is looking great. Thank you, Public Works. Thank you, all our employees. We got some great events coming up, Emily, and looking forward to participate. I got my batteries and I got my flashlight. I'm ready to go Friday night. I'm going to get that gold medal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Watt, you talk horse show once we go around, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Kind of give us a feeling of how that went. Mr. Jarozinski?
Just resonate what Councilman Mao said about the town looking great. Flowers are coming up, the trees are blooming. Hope that the worst of the pollen is behind us, but not likely. That's really all I got.
Mr. Hinkle?
I will do a third concur, sir. What the previous two gentlemen stated, I concur.
Okay, great. Mr. Auction?
Let it ride.
All right, good stuff. Won't go too far into any of the weeds. I would say I've spent some time up in Raleigh these last few weeks, and a lot happening there. I think the focus has been on Western North Carolina, but Ms. White and I continue to have conversations with our elected officials on any opportunity that might exist, but again, understanding most of their budget is focused on Western North Carolina right now, but again, still conversations happening. But with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I appreciate the compliments, of course, about the town looking great. Just to remind everyone, most of what you see is now Parks and Rec Department that handles all of that, the appropriate transition as we've been able to grow that department. The staff there is doing fantastic. Some start as early as 6 a.m. in the morning. They're working 7 days a week. This, I would say, from looking at the calendar until who knows when, but that department, to be as small, is doing a lot of great things, and we too are hearing compliments from the citizens, and a few that take time to put positive stuff on social media are also commenting, and we appreciate it. As to the horse sale, I sent you all a series of pictures that Friday evening, somewhere in the 6:30, 7 o'clock range. as we do with every large event that's within the town, regardless if it's a Parks and Rec thing or one of the nonprofits or somebody else doing an event, we always have some staff present. Typically, for something that is not a town event, I don't ask staff to come out and work them. I go and do them myself just to make sure. We get in a danged if we do, danged if we don't situation when there's events there. I don't know if new people don't pay attention or what, but just like the horse sale, that's been going on somewhere in the neighborhood of almost 20 years that it's been occurring that I recall, maybe even closer to 25 now that I said it, other than the brief lapse we had to skip in COVID. So it's an annual around Easter. The reason it was this short of Easter this time is because Easter is so late this year. And then, of course, Thanksgiving. And me going around to look, the town, as you all know, have wastewater lines, areas that we maintain to make sure that we have access to them in case there's an issue with a pipe or drainage or something of that nature. The town builds infrastructure and some of those to make sure that equipment can cross, etc. Mowing, maintaining, we are graded by the state and inspected by the state to make sure that those areas are clean and passable in case there was an emergency. That way you don't say, oh, we didn't cut those trees for the last 10 years. So it has to be maintained by us to a certain standard. The area located in between Iredell County Rec Center and Iredell County Fairgrounds, they own all the property, it's theirs, but we still have the utility lines. To remind you all, the county opted, instead of building what we estimated to be $3.2 million sewer line extensions that would have benefited not only the county, the town, the city of Statesville, and Children's Hope Alliance at the time, they opted to spend $600,000 that really, once our wastewater projects in the future come to fruition, $500,000 of that was a waste because we won't be able to reuse those lines and or other items somewhere else, so it'll have to be reconfigured. But it's in between their properties, and it made sure that the restrooms at the rec center flushed, but as I told them then, the property was in the process, as the mayor knows, of they'd already been contacts to Children's Hope Alliance Board and trying to buy the property. But that's what they opted to do. Since then, we have been mowing, maintaining, and building a structure such as a bridge to make sure our equipment crosses. We located people, as I sent you all pictures, and also the county manager, of people camping in the woods. It's not a camping site. It's not supposed to be a camping site. The response I got, and also some of us, without being grotesque in the meeting, call them horse apples that fall all over the place from the rear end of the horse. They were all up and down our greenway. They were in this trail. They were trespassing on other properties. Sent pictures of that to the county manager. The response I got was, I will speak with staff. Haven't heard anything since. The campers stayed there the entire horse sale. They were not moved. Town of Troutman staff and the rain took care of the horse apples on the greenway. Nobody from my observations from the county was there to oversee the show that was going on so that they can have a first-hand understanding of how that impacts the town, the neighbors, the businesses. I did talk to 2 different business owners who were complaining once again that horse trailers and or campers parking in business parking lots. When Andrew signs off on plans for a business, part of that is emergency ingress, egress. The other part's just normal traffic flow, ingress, egress. The appropriate parking areas for handicap versus not. There were blockages on these paths within what's called the Iredell Fairgrounds Shopping Center, but also next door Dollar Tree. People just park where they want to. Our police department issued numerous citations for people parking in areas that were clearly listed as no parking. Our staff, police department and Parks and Rec, helped put up streamers to remind everybody the importance of these signs. There was some criticism from people attending that nobody told them anything, and if there was grass, they should be able to park there. The issue I have, if you go to any major event anywhere that I've attended in the state of North Carolina that is not a normal part of business, meaning they have concerts in Charlotte at stadiums, you see signs clearly marked parking here. Other signs, no parking. The temporary events, large car shows, craft shows, different things that happen over a weekend, you clearly have signage put up that states what is expected of the public. So people's not driving around parking on private property. Private property simply means it's owned by somebody else other than the venue. The county has done nothing that we can tell, even though we have asked several times for them to put up signage stating where parking is. We did communicate with the vendor who rented the fairgrounds and explained to him our expectations, but at the same token, going back to the town is danged if we do, danged if we don't. If we deny it because the county is not adhering to a plan to be good neighbors, then their verbiage, and a couple of you've already been talked to by county commissioners, what is our hangup? Obviously, the fairgrounds don't need to be here. Well, that's not true. This council has on numerous occasions voiced to them that the town council would like to see the fairgrounds remain. We've asked for communications. They've pledged to you there would be communications. After the last meeting we had, there was one email sent out, nothing since. County commissioners are talking about selling and or trading the fairgrounds to somebody else. That don't fix the problem of what are they doing when there's events there. Some of our citizens are ecstatic, business owners, because of the increased business that occurs when this event comes to town. Others are disappointed because of issues I've already explained. People parking there for most of the day that does not allow their regular customers to get to the property. The other thing that I would like to point out is we have purchased the Liat building. And we tried to communicate with the county over their public comments about needing a place for storage of equipment, maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. We offered to trade that facility to the rec center. At least a couple comments that you all had for county commissioners. One in particular couldn't even remember what we discussed in that meeting. The whole purpose of us trading that was to line the rec center up to potential future property that's going to be donated to the town. It lines it up. We also have Emily, who ran that facility prior to assuming the town of Troutman job. We are not going to get into public comments about how they do or don't run a facility, but if you look throughout the state, it's not common for counties to own rec facilities in other municipalities. That's more of a municipality responsibility and task. It also, the county does not own any of the property entrance into the fairgrounds, and just like this past weekend, all the parking that was occurring, what used to be Liat property, or Liat property, is now town of Troutman property. So at some point in time, with you all's direction, we're gonna have to make a conscious effort. Do we allow them to continue using the entrance? Allow them to continue doing things that's causing our citizens and business owners harm? Or do we simply block it off and start denying their permits because they're not managing the property to make sure that these events are overall good for the citizen? I say all that to say, I don't know that there is such a thing as a perfect event to where everybody's gonna be happy. I would expect better communications from the county, other than I'll talk to staff, and then nothing else after that. Some of you that have had comments with elected officials, you know what's been said to you all from the county commissioners. But at this situation, we are nearing the ends of the engineers being able to give us a plan on best use options of the lit property. But in the near future, that's one of the things we're gonna have to consider, and especially coming this November, as to whether we allow them to use our property or not. It puts a burden on the town for us to block the greenways, for example. People was riding horses up and down the greenways. On one hand, a lot of people would say, what's the big deal? It's an animal. Well, some of those animals weigh over a ton, and some of those animals have metal shoes on them, so when they're on asphalt, on the edges of the asphalt, it's causing it to crack and or damage. The county throws their hands up and says, it's not our problem, but then they criticize us if we voice a concern or an issue. So again, we're danged if we do, we're danged if we don't. I'll be glad to answer any other questions specifically to the horse sale.
For the recap, other questions, comments?
Go ahead.
I would like to say, we did have some people contact the police department and say, well, why haven't you bagged the signs like you did previously? Which, in my perspective, and I talked to the manager, if, we don't know who put those signs, if it was DOT or the county that say no parking. If there's a sign put there, no parking, that's because of problems that are generated from events there. So bagging the sign, just to say, okay, you know, you can park anywhere, that to me, kind of, you know, you're talking out both ends, with your mouth and, or sides of your mouth, and so we, you know, put up the tape. We did write, this is first year we went out and we did write parking citations, for it. We had a few people, you know, complain, you know, wow, we've always been able to park here, but some people say, well, I didn't know I couldn't park here, and they're parked right in front of the no parking sign. But, you know, overall, we didn't see as much parking on the side of the roads as we have in the past.
To add to what the chief said, Iredell County is actually the entity that installed those no parking signs. And they did it because of the traffic that used to be. When the fair used to come to town, that was the biggest event that showed up to the fairgrounds. Back then, the people in charge of the fair contacted all the local businesses, nonprofits were involved, various ones, Boy Scouts, Troutman Lions, athletic teams from the high school, and they all would have a certain area that they was in charge of the parking, if you will. And they roped it off, again, they had appropriate signage that said parking. That way people would know. They would know if there's a fee or if there was not a fee. But the county put those signs up, got state approval to put those signs up, just for instances like this, to keep them off of private property and or the pedestrians being struck, which has happened up there in recent years, and or vehicle accidents. To my knowledge, we haven't had an accident since the chief and I have been here. Well, I'll take that back. There was one minor one, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. But the county's wanted to put up the no parking signs. 2015-16, it was the will of the council at that time to bag the signs for the one event. But in my role as town manager, as the chief said, it makes no sense to have no parking signs for large events, only to bag them and ignore them.
I have a question just kind of around our town events as, for fees and stuff for elected officials. If we want to partake in the town events, be it the flashlight this Friday or other 5Ks and events that the town specifically sponsors, should those fees be required of the town council, as we have Iredell Statesville Schools that gives us elected officials cards to not have to pay fees when we attend their events. So I mean, even within our own town, it seems like we have to pay something that we're getting a respect for from other entities in the county.
That's a decision of the council, not staff.
I have a question about the parking. Logistically wise, okay, and I'm not a logistics coordinator, but I went to the University of Common Sense. South Iredell, an off-site parking space, spot, it's not the county's, okay, but I can't understand why the county can't reach out to the Iredell Statesville School District to possibly have an off-site parking spot there with shuttle buses going over to the fairgrounds for the horse show or fireworks shows or any big events. I think it's the price of the shuttle buses or the cost into the rental of the facility.
One, I can't comment as to the county's common sense or lack thereof for your statement, but I can say all the times that I checked Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday, there was ample parking within the Iredell County facility for all that I saw. It just simply was no signage and/or directions of people to park where there was plenty of open spaces to park. But yes, there's certainly other facilities, including the Iredell County Rec Center, that people could park, and no, very few, if any, did park up there.
I mean, if people within the Iredell County community or people outside the Iredell community are complaining that there's no parking, that's not, the county then is not doing a proper advertising of where they can park. Like you just.
The county has said previously it's not their place to talk to the local businesses, nor is it their place to do a parking plan for people they're renting to.
They should ask for when they have a rental, sir.
Again, that puts the town in a hard spot. When they send us the application and saying they have met all the county's requirements, if we start being the parking police, then we're the bad guys. And that goes back to some of the comments that you all have heard from commissioners, one in particular that says, see, y'all don't want the fairgrounds there because you're not working with us.
We're already the bad guys in the eyes of the people who couldn't find parking spots, so.
Again, to me, it's the county facility, and in my opinion, they should take ownership of it, or you all can give us direction, and we will certainly let every renter know that unless they have a proper parking plan going forward, we will deny their permit.
Do we need to review the permitting process?
The permitting process works. It's just that we have not took the hardline position of forcing, just like a parking plan, them having, for example, when we do a parade, when people drive around town, what does everybody see? Signs a week in advance announcing there's going to be an event, traffic will be restrained, traffic will be this. Simple as that. We can require they do that. We can require they have signs up that says parking here. We just have not in the past because we were trying to get along and help the event be successful. Again, the person renting, the analogy I used on the radio is if you have a neighbor in your house, in your neighborhood, twice a year that wants to throw a neighborhood party, it always winds up in being people from other counties and states shows up to the neighborhood party. But your kids are helping with the parking, and they're paying your kids to help with the parking, but when the party shows up, now they're parked in half the people's front yard. Those people are mad. You're between a rock and a hard place. Your kids are getting benefit because they're helping park, but they also are not old enough to direct, and it's not their place to direct the parking plan. That's kind of the position the town is in. It's not our place to do that, but we can if we need to going forward.
They do submit, when they submit to Parks and Recreation for the event application, it then comes to the police department, whereas they have to lay out their traffic and parking plan for that facility. Because we have no authority to say, you know, you can or can't park on anybody else's property. So, you know, all we can look at in the permit is about that, the facility. And we went this year, and we talked to, as he said, the event, and told them, you're going to have people help manage your parking, might get them in the parking lot, the back lot, have them park it effectively so there's room, because in previous years, the way they park, you could fit double the cars, but they were letting them just park however. I don't know, on Friday, I went up there a couple times, I don't know that they really did have somebody, they had somebody in the back lot. I didn't see anybody towards the front, you know, helping manage that like we'd asked to. You know, I don't know if that's, they just had trouble getting the staff.
I agree with the chief. The one guy I saw in the back parking lot appeared to be a Mennonite, and he's basically just waving people in. There was no marked spaces saying horse trailers here, campers there, cars over here. They just parked wherever. And again, there was plenty of room for additional parking. It's just people coming north and south didn't know that there's parking, or that's where they should go to parking. The person that was working at the gate, we had off-duty officers up there and on-duty officers checking. The person that was working their gate was basically come in and find a parking place. There was nobody, even like when the fair's there, you have scouts or somebody actually showing people how to park, where to park, charging them a fee. There's none of that going on.
I'd hate to suggest a correction for the county, but as we have the Organization of the Year nomination of ICATS, it'd be a great opportunity for them to use it as a shuttle service for this. As you were talking, parking at South Iredell or some other parking, off-site parking plan. I mean, if they need it, they have, it looks like the abilities to transport people, so.
Other comments, thoughts?
Well, it boils down, and I think we've discussed this before, I've said it again, I'll repeat myself. If we're gonna have rules, we're gonna have policies, we're gonna enforce them. If not, let's do away with them. I understand I don't wanna shoot myself in the foot, don't wanna shoot the town in the foot, so to speak, and kind of give some people, negative people, an excuse to move the fairgrounds. We've made it quite clear, formally and informally, meetings, outside of meetings, we want the fairgrounds to stay here. But we also are a municipality where, we need to be respected by another governmental jurisdiction or organization. And that needs to occur, and it's obviously not occurring. We continue to complain, nothing happens. Even when we do complain, nothing happens. We have got to, we need to make or set out a specific parking plan, and that's it, period. Then if that's what we need to do to get the attention of not only the attendees, but also county government, then that's what we need to do. But again, if we're not going to enforce what we've got out there, what needs to be done to keep our community in a good position even during these events, then we need to do away with it and just whatever happens, happens. I realize that's easier said than done, but if it means, signs, taping off, the insistence of the organizers that they give our police department a formalized parking plan, and that they're expected to, or we're going to ticket the dickens out of parking violations, as well as I think we did this last time, and seeing some of the tapes and so forth. But in the case of the property owners, if they park in the fairground shopping center, so forth, those people can ask my understanding, our police department to ticket them. It's private property, but they can give them permission to ticket these folks and so forth. But again, my bottom line is, if we're gonna have procedures, we need to enforce them. And, if somebody upstateful gets a little upset, well, I'm sorry. But, we've tried the carrot time and time again. We've even put sugar on it, and it doesn't seem to be working. And, so, then we have to resort to the stick, whatever that involves and demands.
A couple comments about the parking on businesses. And the chief can correct me if I say something wrong. When it comes to like handicap parking and marked handicap areas, by all means, our police can ticket in that situation. But if they're parked in 3 parking spaces instead of 1, or blocking others, we have no authority to give them a ticket for anything in that scenario. The business owner and or managers, if they choose, themselves can call a wrecker service and have a vehicle towed, but we can't even have it towed on their behalf. That's private property or business property, as you stated. But other than handicap violations, I'm not aware of any other way we could take enforcement action.
Now, we've had, I do know with the previous police chief so forth, and I'm, right or wrong, we did pass an ordinance covering where a business owner could give permission, sign a form of document giving permission to our police officers, if someone say parking there after hours.
Now, we can enter in what's called an act as agent, and that's for trespassing. So if, say, somebody's there after hours, they don't leave, then we can arrest them for trespassing. But when it's, their vehicle issue, we have no legal authority on that.
But if a property owner puts up, puts up a sign, customers only, in fact, it's at the entrance of the parking.
They have to call it out then, so we can't.
Puts up a sign, customers only, and then obviously fair people come in and so forth. Can you, not set up an agreement with the police department that, those people would be can be, legally ticketed?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Because our ordinances only apply on, what the, no parking areas that are established by the town or the state. Fire lanes, but when it's parking in the street, but, somebody can park in the middle of Food Line's parking lot in a lane, and it's up to Food Line to have that towed.
Okay.
We can't force that because it's private property.
Okay, all right.
Question in those parking spaces, is there enforceable whether or not they're within the line?
No.
No?
Yeah, within the lines, it doesn't matter, you can park sideways, and that's a issue for the property owner to deal with.
Okay, so it's a private lot.
The only thing is handicap and fire lane.
So basically, as you said, trespassing after hours,
Yeah.
that type of thing. Because I do know that was brought up in that conversation numerous years ago.
Yeah, we have several agreements to act as agent with, like Lowe's Hardware or some other businesses for those things.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm referring to, but obviously, there's a limit to that, as I understand you, okay. Well, again, I still go back to what I said, if we're gonna have policy and procedures, and I wanna say something stronger, but I won't, obviously, public meeting, but doggone it, we're gonna have to either enforce them or let's do away with it.
Yes, sir.
It just seems, I agree with Councilman Henkel, it just seems like the town, okay, the council and the police department are taking the black eye or the brunt of a situation that the Iredell County Commissioners should take care of, and the Iredell County Sheriffs.
I just have one question. Did I hear that correctly? They do currently have to submit a formal parking plan on site.
Yes, for the on-site.
So if, my question would be, if that plan isn't followed, are there any repercussions in place currently? And what are they?
Now, if they submit the plan and it's not to, we're like, hey, this isn't unsafe, or this doesn't meet what's gonna happen, we can deny it. I haven't had an issue, where we've had somebody violating what they submitted. And the fairgrounds becomes a kind of, for law enforcement wise, a legal, it's kind of gray area. Because, okay, it's owned by the county, but for the intents and purposes, that's private property, that's another place's property. So we can't just shut down an event there. It'd be like if you're having 50 people at your house, you can do that, and as long as you're not violating the noise ordinance or anything, we can't come shut that down. It's, your property.
But if I'm violating the noise ordinance?
If you're not, then we could charge you for the noise ordinance violation.
Right.
But I can't say everybody has to leave your private property.
And if I may, there is no punitive action in there if our plans are not followed currently. I don't know that that's necessary, other than you use that as a reason not to allow them in the future. The current owner of the horse sale has been extraordinary to talk to and work with. No comment I have made is intended upon reflecting toward him or his father previously in a negative fashion. They simply tell us what to do, we want to do it. The county has never took ownership of the event, and they had staff there. As I said, for all of our events, we have personnel there. If somebody else rents facilities from us, we still have personnel there. And to me, there is no understanding or willing, as one of you all said, proper communications to say, oh, I see a problem, this is how we need to address it in the future. Instead of looking at what the problem is, they look at, it's that town manager in Troutman's running his mouth again. Or one council member now.
Yeah, so, quick question. There's no punitive, in regards to them not fulfilling.
And let me clarify that. When they submit the parking plan to us, the person having the horse sale, they've done everything we've asked them to do. When John Smith or Sally Smith shows up from out of town and they park somewhere else, That's not really his responsibility. He has parking, they're just not utilizing it.
Right.
And that's what's happened the last 3 horse sales that I'm aware of. It's the man holding the sale, he's doing everything we've asked him to do. It's the people showing up, running over fences, running horses up and down the greenway, strolling through wherever they wanna go like it's whatever.
I think this one was the least issues.
I agree, I agree.
But this one being the least of the issues, and the fact that some of those folks were cited, may curve it for the next go-round.
That's what we hope so.
Okay.
We do think, and thank you, Chief, I do agree, this is the best in a while. The only thing that I would recommend to the guy renting, Mr. Beachy, is next time, hey, put out signs that says parking here. And then make sure that they have somebody inside that area that can help, regardless of what it is. If it's a car, a truck, a trailer, a horse, or a camper, that they know where to go to park once they're in there instead of just roaming around. But yes, I agree with what the chief said.
Have you received any calls from property owners about any problems? We've had that in the past. There wasn't, it was for that, the least of any.
Tom, can I ask you, when you, some of your officers did write tickets, under what circumstances, were they on town property at that time,
They
or?
were in the no parking area, where it says there's a area from, I guess, Main Street, Murdoch and Main to the EMS base is the signs for no parking. They wrote citations there, and then also at the land for the town, the Greenway, they were parking up there, and there was a section of the ordinance for parking on common area of the town, is what that falls under, and that was it.
There again, we had signs up and they were just ignoring them.
Yeah, they were just parking where it said no parking signs, and that's the only problems we had. There was only, there wasn't a ton of parking tickets issued, because on Friday, the day it opened, the officers went out very early and started so that it would get the word out to stop it. So then Saturday, I don't think they had any citations issued Saturday.
Okay, that's where I was at.
Yeah, noise-wise, I mean, the auction was done and over by 10 o'clock, and that was on the plus side. It wasn't until 1:30 in the morning, they were auctioning horses off. So I'm glad that was not, that's a good thing.
Did we have to replace any railing this time around?
No.
Oh, that's a positive.
Yeah.
Huh?
And I do appreciate the job the police department did, but also Parks and Rec staff, still had to do some. Emily can state if it was more extensive than I'm aware of. It is a town staff effort when the events come, regardless of what event it is, but especially this one, because other than the fair, it's the largest events that happens.
I kind of reiterate what the mayor says, I'm glad that word of mouth is getting out there, the first day, and then the second day, we didn't have to issue tickets, and the same thing with the railing, past events, damage to property, perhaps none of that, this particular time, and so forth, so, if we enforce in some way, word doesn't get out, but again, something on the part of the county or the organizers of the event to have paid staff out there, to kind of just walk up and down these areas, these problem areas, and if they see people doing something, say something to them, to identify themselves, event staff or something, and to tell them, really, you can park over there, but you don't need to be parking here and so forth. And I think, as you say, the word of mouth gets around very quickly, so. But again, I just, and I can't say it enough, we just, whatever we do, we need to enforce it. If not, then, we do away with it.
Typically, when we plan events that are ours, we contact all the partners, we let all the neighbors know, but door hangers and/or reverse phone call, hey, this is happening. When they are not ours, we still are supervising the event to make sure that it fits our policies. In this situation, if county staff simply, as Councilman Now said, contacted the school facilities or the vacant business across the road and said, hey, can we rent this? We'll take care of it and make it better than when we found it. There's certainly other options. include parking on their own facility at the rec center, that just simply are not being explored, and or if it's discussed, it's certainly news to us, because they don't utilize none of it.
I agree, but, you know, obviously, we can't force them to do what they're just not gonna do for whatever reason. Not to be good neighbors or whatever the reason. But again, you know, I say we certainly do to the extent of whatever we can do as a town. And if it ends up in us perhaps shooting ourselves a little bit in the big toe, you know, we do what we've got to do to maintain our sovereignty, shall we say, and enforce the quality of when these events are here, the quality of life for people in it. You know, I certainly, you know, don't want to run anybody off whatsoever, but again, I want respect for our rules, our policies, and our ordinances.
All right, good.
The other thing that I would tell you all, again, you've already commented about what the town looks like. That's great. We are still actively working some projects just for the viewing public and those that come back and check us online afterward. Morrison Farm Park, as Emily can tell you, has been successful, and the trail is almost ready for open to the public, but they're just making sure certain weather conditions that it's still safe. Grass has been planted out there all along our greenway. Appropriate grass, fertilizer, weeding, edging, bug killing. We could talk 10 minutes about all the things our staff has to do just for that. Our law enforcement's been busier than normal. I would say most of that's normal business. We have had a couple situations that's been newsworthy in town within the last month over some bad incidents, but are appreciative of the quality of officers that we have, that they've been able to handle those, and we are still going forward on trying to make sure that the town is presented in the best light possible, with all of us still doing our jobs, regardless of what department that it is. Public Works has had a couple other than normal breaks that they've had to deal with, but getting certifications, I'm tickled with where we are on all of our employees, police, Parks and Rec, and Public Works, with the certifications and certificates that all those staff continue to get to make sure that we're able to handle business in-house and professionally. That's all I have, unless you have other questions.
Any other questions, staff? I do want to bring up a couple of things that I didn't remember to speak about. One is the strategic planning session. It was a good session. Again, I appreciate all the staff who participated in it. Provided some really good things to think about, and I see the pickleball courts going up, so looks good out there. I look forward to that. I've already had a lot of citizens inquiring, so I think the town is looking forward to having another amenity out there. So good work. The grass fields look great, and so our park continues to look wonderful. Appreciate council stepping in to help represent the town at the Boys and Girls Club. I know we've got a lot of students who also go to Boys and Girls Club, and so helping to represent there. As I understand, Ms. Harris and Mr. Jarozinski will be doing breakfast for us now that they have all that down. So we'll leave that for another day. Exactly. The Weathers Creek High School did have their groundbreaking, and again, I also appreciate Councilman Jarozinski and Ms. Harris joining me out there. That's a big property, and they've got a lot of work ahead of them, and again, appreciate the fact that we will have a new high school that will ease some of the student burden. It will be some work that I think will present itself for the town, but I think all in all, again, good opportunity to grow our schools in the community as we continue to grow as well. With that, we will move on into an overview of Thursday's meeting. Mr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For Thursday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are normal business. Item number 6, A, consider approval of briefing minutes last month. B is approval of regular meeting minutes. C is consider annexation. There's a lot of different property owners there. This, in general description, is the Clontz Hill Road property. The Planning and Zoning Board meeting will be handling that this month. And then that will become for you Thursday. 6D, consider annexation. That was also contiguous property to our town limits. 6D is considered non-contiguous. Applicant is Dean Dishman, 875 Old Mountain Road. This is simply so that he can get our water and sewer services.
That's right.
Any questions on either of those? I'm sorry I didn't ask questions about Clontz Hill. All right. 6E, amendments to the Town of Troutman schedule of fees. On the first page in the copies that you've been provided, it's simply, as you all know, since COVID occurred, we're almost getting quarterly increases. We try to increase enough to where we don't have to be coming back 2 and 3 times a year. This simply is increasing the cost of the meters to our latest fee structure that we've been told. That is a buffer in there so that we don't hopefully have to come back anytime this year. On the second page, this is rental rates. This cleans up the policy to where we had in-town and out-of-town rates. But we also have included an item for nonprofits so that they're not given one rate or the other, depending on where some of the nonprofits are located. For example, the person of record may not live in our town limits. This just cleans that up. It also goes into getting the fees better, as Emily and I discussed, so that it's uniform. Are there any questions on that?
I did have a question on this piece. I wanted to get to the fee schedule here because I didn't see where the fees of like officers for events and stuff extended to nonprofits. It was in the first block of fees that they would be the same as in-town residents, and I'm just looking for it here.
Our officer rate should be the same regardless if it's a nonprofit, in-person, out-of-town, in-town. The officer rates will not vary regardless of who's renting if they're needed.
Correct. I just didn't see it extend into the column that was created for nonprofit.
Oh, okay.
So I think that we should carry those fees over under nonprofit
Sure,
as well.
sure,
Just so there's no confusion.
sure. We'll be glad to make that change. Any other questions or comments? All right, then we move on to item 6F, amending the Town of Troutman flower and card policy. As my comments on you all's agenda simply stated, I forget how many years Kim told me since the last adoption was made, but we simply, for normal arrangements, our policy does not allow enough funds to cover that. So we're simply trying to increase it to be with the modern times. Any questions or comments on that? Consider budget amendments to the general fund. Moneybags is not feeling too good today, just so you all know. He's in mourning. Duke got killed. So he's not doing good, but if there's specific questions, one of the things that I would like to point out, the majority of the amendments to our general fund is the purchase of the Liet property. roofing, repairs on the auxiliary buildings on the side that has been done. We also, purchased the house on Clutt Street, and the improvements to that property. There is a tenant in Clutt Street. I'll be glad to tell you all individually who it is. I felt like that was a win-win for the town. I just don't want to state it publicly because I don't want to put people's situations out there for everybody to know, but I do think that was a win-win for the tenant and us as a town, but it is rented, and it is going out there. On the utility fund, we have had a couple, I'm sorry, before I go to the utility fund, was there any questions on the general fund amendments that are requested? If I can get to the right utility fund now. We have had a couple things there. There was a little bit of overage on the building that we done in Public Works facility, and also we've had 2 significant major repairs that were done. And then we also, as I've talked to a few of you all, we went ahead and purchased vehicles, knowing that some is a change out on mileage, also for increased employees. But we were able to buy 5 trucks for the price of basically 3.6 trucks. Because we took advantage of older models, even though they were still new trucks, they were on the lot, and we were able to get them cheaper than waiting to the new physical budget year, at which point the incentives and rebates for the 23 models, if the trucks even existed, may no longer exist.
Do we have any that we're trading in? I know you said 5 additionals. Do we have any that we traded in?
We are going to evaluate, because it's going to take us 4 to 6 weeks to get these trucks marked up, the bed liners, the different flashing lights and things of that nature. There should be 2 trucks that we can do something with, depending on what you all say during the budget cycle. We may ask to keep those trucks just in case there's accidents and a truck's not available, and or for one potential new hire if you also approve in the spring. At this point, to answer your question, yes, 2 trucks we're going to do something with, the other 3, not so much. Any other questions on our most expensive department? Then we go to 6I, consider the ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Code of Ordinances, Chapter 96, under 9, burglary alarms. Chief, if you would briefly.
So, one thing, the town has not had alarm ordinance, which most municipalities and counties do. I was at a meeting, which is the Chiefs Association Committee for Alarms, which is a joint, members from the Chiefs of Police Association and the alarm industry North Carolina, their group. And the alarm industry is very supportive of having these ordinances because false alarms are a big problem for them like they are us. So what this does is if we have somebody, it's not that, oh, if your alarm goes off, you get there and there's no break-in, you're automatically getting fined. It's where, and we've been very lucky, we haven't had a problem with this, but as we keep growing, you get more and more alarm systems, the potential for where we're going 5, 6 times a night, same alarm. This would give us something that could force them to say, hey, you're gonna be fined, to force them to, hey, contact their alarm company to get it fixed. There's a danger in repetitive false alarms because officers then, get complacent and, they're like, hey, we've been here 8 times the past 2 days, and this time it's real, and, they're not prepared. The alarm system, this would, basically, we would issue a $50 civil penalty for repetitive alarms. They can be waived, the fees can be waived if, they're able to submit that it was not the result of negligence, and there was, a legitimate, problem with the system that they were working at
Chief, is the $50 enough teeth in the bite, or you feel that's appropriate?
Yeah,
or
there's
should
some of
it be
the
more?
surrounding municipalities actually, there was one that was less than this.
Okay.
So, they were at like 25, which I guess they haven't updated it as cost have risen, but I think it would, and we don't have a large enough problem, I feel.
Right.
But it'd be nice to have something for us to be able to say, hey, you're causing a waste of resources, you got this.
Because in the larger metropolitan areas, automatic alarms to the police and fire department are a tremendous burden,
Oh, yeah, yes.
tremendous.
It was bad in Charlotte some years ago, it was being local news, and they were, you know, with, as you say, the false alarms, so forth, and they were, obviously, council was struggling down there with the fines and so forth, and doing that. But, I was going to, getting back to our situation, 60 days, and then, you know, you hit the reset button. Do you think that's too short of a period?
This came, a lot of this was formed from a recommended example from the alarm association. Because what that does is it gives the people time to get it fixed, because the alarm companies can come out, you know, if you're having a problem with your alarm, they can be there that day or the next day to make a repair. I think that's a pretty good,
Well, I was just, you know, somebody that's, and of course, I'm talking not the responsible individual, property owner, business owner. I'm talking about the person who's not so responsible. And, you know, you hit the reset button every 60 days, and, you know, of course, the first two, I guess, are givens for them, and then it's the third one where they're charged with a $50 fine. And I'm just saying, you know, if every 60 days, if, you know, every 120 days or something, or, you know, something a little longer, to where if they are a chronic abuser, that you can just keep petting them. Whereas, you know, after 60 days, which is hardly, you know, goes by very quickly, when you hit the reset, they get 2 more free.
When the chief and I talked about that, I didn't mean if I cut you off, I'm
No,
sorry.
you're fine.
When the chief and I talked about that, this is kind of the recommended verbiage from the alarm company. And at this point, we just stress we don't have the problem. This just allows us to be ready if there is a problem in the future. Typically, in my history at the county, when we had a few there that were consistent, as you say, if they're responsible, most people want their alarm working properly as soon as possible. And this just allows them the opportunity. I'll use this analogy, for example, people called, we tell them, hey, your water's running a little high. I had a plumber come out, they said there was nothing wrong with it. Okay, next week, your water's still high. Well, I've got a different plumber coming out. A month later, they determined, you know, after the third plumber, I actually do have a problem. They found it. Well, the same thing on the alarm companies. If whoever's monitoring the system, not necessarily they're always gonna get it fixed right off the bat. This gives them time frame to get it fixed, and then, as you say, hit the reset button. If it continues to be a problem, then the onus then becomes the property owner, and if it becomes a problem for us, we can come back to you all and ask for a change in the ordinance. This basically just starts us out with a foundation, and if there's not a problem, we don't need to prepare for one.
Okay.
You're referring to like a habitual problem, you know, that it.
Yes, yeah.
Which we haven't, honestly, the time I've been here, I can't think of any business that would have violated this yet.
That's good.
Good.
So we're doing really good, and we have had somewhere that's like, you know, had 2 alarms in one night. A lot of times the supervisor on duty will say, you know, the alarm company has to get a key order to come out here. They'll talk to me like, hey, you know, if this keeps going on, I will respond to you one night. It gives them incentive to get it fixed.
Well, you know, I hear what, you know, town manager's saying, you know, the responsible person is going to, and I understand that, and I don't mind giving them grace. It's just the irresponsible property owner.
Yeah, and if we start seeing a problem, like you said, I think we would then come back and say, hey, we're gonna need to
Right,
extend
right.
this out, because we're
I
having
understand.
problems.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments on that? Thank you, Chief. We've got 2 employees for recognition of Employees of the Month. Their supervisor can speak to that Thursday night. We also have a young man that I can remember when he was born. That starts to show my age. I'm not gonna say some of you all's. But this young man, from the time he was little, enjoyed wrestling, and to see him come back with the state championship is awesome. And also, Coach Mayhew, He's in a lot of our hearts as having taught some in the room how to drive and scolded the others that left to go get Keaton's chicken during the school day. But he hopefully will be here to help present as well. He, of course, is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame for all he has done for the sport. And we also have Sam Harper, who placed second in the state in his weight class, but we look forward to hosting those. Also, you all will have the proclamation declaring April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month. We apologize, it was not our fault that there was little to no notice about the ceremony that we did, the ribbon tying around the tree. I appreciate Emily and Chief and getting as many of our personnel there and some of you elected officials that could show up with about 2 hours notice, I think we got. But it was a decent opening ceremony. Roman numeral 8, Leighton will be back here to dazzle you all with the ABC numbers. Roman numeral 9A, it's up to you all. I'm asking, do we need to handle this Thursday or continue to table the HOA?
I'm happy to move forward with it. I did, you know, I think shortly after our meeting, or actually during our meeting last month, I did receive a response from the HOA president. I did try to forward it to everyone. I don't know if you all received it or not.
Here in our packet.
Oh, it is? Okay, so
Yeah, it's
maybe,
in the packet.
okay, good. So yeah, I'm fine with proceeding.
Okay.
As far as when council wants to have that discussion, I'll leave that up to you.
Awesome. Roman numeral 10, new business. You all have all the information for our Citizens of the Year nominees and also for our Organization of the Year. Some of the department directors and or I, if you all wish to reach out to us and ask what, if any, impact any of those organizations or persons have had on our ability to do our job and help make the town better, feel free. Reach out to whomever you like, or you can send a blanket question to us all if you prefer, so that you all have the hard task. Because in looking at those nominees, you all have an outstanding lot of persons and organizations to choose from. Consider resolution, Town of Troutman, tentative awards of construction for contracts for sewer collection rehab is 10C. And that one is been advertised and Benji put out. One of the projects come in a little under bid, which is an anomaly this day and time. The other one was over, but Benji will be here to discuss the details with those with you all. Also, Roman numeral 10D.
I apologize to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
Can you give just a quick capsule of the history of you know, this revitalization, if you will, upgrading of our sewer?
Sure,
these lines and so
sure.
forth?
And thank you for clarifying, because I'm sure some of our viewers and others would like to know. Basically, this is funding that I was able to apply for at you all's permission and get in the neighborhood of 3 years ago, when we got the low interest loan and some state money for our sewer, especially our sewer projects, to where when it storms like today, we're sending about 40% more rainwater to whichever municipality to then be treated as sewage. And it's not, and it's very expensive to treat rainwater. So we're going into the system. Some of them are clay basins, and there's several lines. If you all recall, somewhere in about a year ago was when we completed having a company to come out, and they was all over town smoke testing lines, and they were cameraing lines. This is a result of those findings. Which sewer lines appear to need sleeves, for lack of a more appropriate engineering term, but they basically will take a pipe and put one that's a little bit smaller inside it, and then that keeps the rainwater from seeping in. Some of our infrastructure is almost 100 years old now, so it definitely happens that it gets there, and we're just simply trying to stop all of that occurring. It is not coming out of the fees that anybody's paying in a water or sewer bill. This is extra money we was able to apply for and get, the majority of it. The part we're having to pay the loan back, yes, that will come out of their fees, but we have been appropriately charging the right amount for that. But that's what the projects are. They just broke it in two different sections. That happen?
I don't have a question about this, I was wondering if we could go back one.
We'll go back in a minute.
Okay.
We're gonna go back one. All right,
That's all I have for that.
okay, thank you.
You need to go back?
No, we can keep
No,
going. We only
man,
got one more, so.
All right, one more. This is what I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but this is a communications issue or lack of respect, whatever you want to call it. These two gentlemen, Randy Farmer and Barry General, we're asking you all to consider nominating them to Iredell County Commissioners for reappointment as ETJ voting members to the Town Troutman Planning and Zoning Board for additional 3-year terms. First of all, I want to clear my comments and say these gentlemen have both been very good board members. They've answered hard questions. They've held potential projects to a lot of detail by asking a lot of questions. My problem with the process that I opened up by saying is 3 times we have sent recommendations to the commissioners. One arrogantly stated, it's up to them to make appointments, not us. It's not our place. And at least 2 commissioners have been talking to various citizens who don't live in our town, but live in the area, not in our ETJ, asking them who should they appoint to boards. The gentle lady and gentleman's process over the years has always been that town councils, town commissions vet the people, send in a recommendation of who they recommend, and then the county commissioners can go through one more step and approve or deny the recommendation. But 3 times the county commissioners have denied our recommendations, and they apparently have a process that they're expecting us to adhere to only be ignored. So that's up to you all. If you wish to, as the mayor has said before, we can be the gentleman if nobody else is going to be, and gentle lady. But the process is, we have historically have made the nominations based off of our research and findings. And again, Andrew may have more comments, but these 2 have served admirably.
Any comments, Andrew?
I think town manager summed it up pretty well.
These 2 in particular have been on the board second term?
This will be Randy's 3rd term.
Randy, okay.
Matter of fact, yeah, Randy's 3rd term and Barry General's 2nd term.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to the commissioners recommending Mr. Farmer and Mr. General to this committee.
Second.
And if they don't show us any respect, so be it, but
I got
these
you.
gentlemen served our community the right way.
As I send in the applications to the county, they've already filled them out. I do a letter stating that the town council has recommended these 2 people.
Thank you.
I send that
So,
myself.
since there's a motion on the floor and a second, we can go ahead and approve it tonight. This can be removed from the agenda. I'll take it on Thursday. If there's no opposition to that, any other question or concern?
I was gonna offer that friendly amendment to remove that, so that's good.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes.
May I ask just for a bit of information? Where does the statute originate which lays out this chain of command? Is it a state statute or is
Yes,
it
sir.
county's own? So it's a state statute that we send the recommendations? Then why are we worried about what they say when they
The state statute is the county commissioners make the appointment. It does not clearly define that we have to make a recommendation.
Okay. But we can't make the appointment.
Correct.
But again, it's always been, as the town manager stated, that, as a sign of respect, you know, that we advise. And we've only had one situation, and that involved, you know, like Tom. But that was a mistake that they clearly made on themselves. But, every other time, up until recently, it's always been, you know, respectfully received from us, considered, and they appoint normally who we've asked. You know. So say the one time that they did not, it was a mistake, and they admitted that. So I would hope that they, these one or two that would certainly think about what they're doing and show us some respect.
And to also add to your comments, of the 3 times that it has occurred, the last time, I want to say was a year ago, somewhere in that neighborhood, year and a half, the commissioners didn't even read their packets. The one that did blamed a different commissioner for saying, well, if they're on there, we keep them on there, and once it come down to it, they all shrugged and said, well, it's our choice, it's not y'all's, which is true. But they also explained another municipality, not us, had given them misinformation, and therefore they was just gonna do what they wanted. I said, so what vetting are you doing? Because at this point, other than the application, neither one went to them and said anything. And of course, they said, well, we made the decision.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay.
If they don't go along with our recommendation, do we have any recourse to any higher authority other than them?
Nope. Just quit going through the process. And put it all on them.
And that can be good and bad.
Absolutely it can be. Because you've got one that's hunting for somebody that has his vision and not our community's best interest now.
Again, I recommend when we have good folks that we at least have invested time and energy in, if they're willing to serve, then at least we make the recommendation and let them.
And in this case, I just want to make sure these two have served well and asked some very hard questions of folks previously. They've done a great job.
Correct, yeah, very good.
So a couple of things on clarification, which I'm assuming Mr. Jarozinski wanted to ask was on the Citizen and Organization of the Year.
Yes, sir. I just think, my
Gotcha.
opinion is I think we should discuss it right now.
Okay.
I think we have nothing secret, okay? But
Yeah.
I think we're kind of wasting the public's time if we extend the meeting 15, 20 minutes on Thursday night. So I think we have our people that are making the decision here. We can talk and we can come up with our candidates.
The mayor won't be here, he'll be busy for the gate.
Okay.
It's even better.
Okay. So any questions?
That can be interpreted wrong. It's better that she's not here Thursday, or it's better we discuss it than that.
I didn't even take it that way, but that's what you say it.
I'm just clarifying for the microphone.
I was
It's better that we're
hoping that
discussing
was
than that.
discussed right out the way.
I tried to just keep it moving.
Well, let me clarify myself. Councilwoman Harris is gonna be here to discuss this today.
Okay. So let's start with Citizen of the Year. So, questions, comments on the Citizens of the Year? Any questions or comments on Citizens of the Year?
I'm not saying anything because I have one of them is mine, my submission. And,
Okay.
and there's, I have nothing negative to say about any of the three that were submitted. Because I agree with the.
No, I think we have 5. Don't we have
We do have
5?
5? I thought what you said.
No,
three.
we had 3.
3 individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before you all get into the discussion, if I may, Emily had a great suggestion. We typically invite the organization of the year and the person of the year to be identified as such in both our parades. It's up to them if their schedule allows and they want to do that. But we also are looking for idea for grand marshal. So it could be possible that somebody that's a close runner-up be allowed to be the grand marshal. That's entirely up to you all.
That would be for the holiday parade,
For Independence Day.
Independence Day parade.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Or you could make it either one, but
Don't we usually get a,
Well, Santa's the grand marshal first.
yes, thank you, Emma.
don't we
Thank
usually
you.
get like a military veteran that's have some accomplishment?
It is a military thing, Independence Day parade.
If they wanna discuss this, they can go into closed session to this.
Yeah.
Yes, you are allowed, Mr. Mayor,
Awesome.
under 14-318.11A2, and it's to prevent the premature disclosure of an honorary degree, scholarship prize, or similar award.
Okay, so, yeah,
Before we do that, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a motion to make. Would now be the time?
yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that, town elected officials be registered for and excused from fees for all town-sponsored events.
Okay. Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
I have a clarification.
Okay.
Did you say they're automatically registered, or only if they're chosen?
Well, if they express interest in wanting to be, registered for the event, then if that
Okay.
makes it easier,
To participate,
yes.
if it's required. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion or comment?
Again, just to clarify, if you would, please, this is for any elected official participating in a,
Town elected officials participating in town-sponsored events. So it'd be at Parks and Rec events, or if other departments put those on. And the reason I make that is because, I mean, Iredell Statesville Schools graciously offers us free admission to all of their events if we'd like to attend. So I think it's just a respect for our local dignitaries.
okay, well, now, what about, all right, the town elected officials will be us, but what about, say, someone on the school board or a county commission wants to participate in one of our events? I'm throwing these out as examples.
My motion is only for town. If you would like to make an additional motion.
No,
for
I'm
that-
just asking a question,
Yeah.
I'm trying to clarify,
Yeah.
make sure what I'm voting on. So you're talking just Troutman, town elected officials?
Troutman town elected officials for Troutman town-sponsored events.
Okay,
Yep,
just clarification on
yep. No worries.
Just us, not family, right? Just
Correct,
5 of us.
yep. Well,
But you did say you're all registered, that means you gotta run.
well, you know, I'm looking at getting participation here too, so,
I'll be there for more support.
all right.
Any other question or comment? Okay. All right. And I don't think we have a whole lot of events that requires, payment, if you will, or registration necessarily, but we have a few.
Just have registration.
Yeah.
But we'll wait.
Okay.
And each event doesn't register the same way, so we use a third-party, registration site for our races, and, some of them use our in-house registration site, Civic Rec, so with each one, just touch base and we'll figure out which one we need to use. Include line dance class. The line dance, yeah.
I didn't think about that. Why you bringing a fan out or something? I'm gonna leave that for another
Well,
conversation.
let's plug all the events. We've got line dance, probably future pickleball events, run walk club, right? There's,
It's free already.
yep.
The only thing you mentioned was the walking part, something.
I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Nay.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, that takes us into, all of our agenda for tonight, other than, is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss organization and citizen of the year? Motion is made, and received a second to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A,
2.
2. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?